the merry dance. Our Lady loves our Lord, oh, with pipe and drum in moon and sun. For fair Diane and merry Pan, we always are made young, oh, we always are made young. When midnight fills the sky, my true love and I will cast a circle round, oh, with voices strong in chant and song. We'll work our will and drink our fill, and dance the darkness down, oh, and dance the darkness down. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. The earth, the air, the fire, the water, return, 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 return. Aye, 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 aye. Spin, merry mead in good measure. Follow along as we join in the dance. Sing, merry mead in the circle. Come on along, you can join in the song. Bring back the light.
Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, the one and the only, the Occult Priestess, a.k.a. Corinne Wilson. What's happening?
Blessed be and merry meet, y'all. So that is a proper Wiccan greeting from where I come from, and blessed be is actually been taken recently by The Handmaid's Tale, which is hilarious. Blessed be the fruit. It has also been Catholic for a while as well, which is funny. But we do say blessed be and merry meet.
You know, so when people hear the word occult, or they hear the term pagan or paganism, people would really find, if they really look into especially paganism and the roots behind it and how far it goes back, they would probably find that they would relate to that more than they do most mainstream religions. And it's just a matter of people not really, you know, they just take it at face value. And, you know, like I remember one time my best friend came to visit me. This was her first time meeting me, and I had all kinds of, you know, crystals and
your altar,
what she would call pentagrams, my little altar, and then he told me, like, after the first day, he's like, "Man, what's up with your like Satan worshiper friend?" And like that's just a classic example of like, man, you know, I mean, I don't blame them because they wouldn't really know any better if they didn't look into it themselves. But that's something we want to clear up tonight, amongst any other directions we might go, is, you know, what occultism really is and what paganism really is, and the lineage of paganism, and quite matter-of-factly how a lot of most modern religions actually, you know, they take a tip from paganism, actually.
Right. I mean, as we can see in history, a very clear-cut scene that everyone knows is that we had Greek names for all of the planets and in astrology, and then they turned around and now they're all Roman names. And so the Romans basically copycatted the Greeks and started their own thing, and now we have the Catholic Church. So you can just connect the dots. It doesn't take a rocket science conspiracy theorist to see that.
And you know, Priestess, how like they were initially Greek, and then the Romans copycatted them, and yet the Romans thought the Greeks were totally inferior to them.
Exactly.
Isn't that a little weird?
Inferiority. So when we talk about paganism, Wicca, and these kinds of things, we're also under an inferiority complex, because let's look at our culture. Culturally, we are mostly Christian, and people who don't even believe that they are Christian, when they die, believe me, they will be praying to Jesus, and that makes them a Christian to me. So when you're in the down and outs and things are difficult, who are you going to call? You know, most people are going to call upon Jesus in our culture, in our society. And so it has been seen since the beginning of the Catholic Church that anything that is not the Catholic Church is demonized. And that's really the point. Who's judging and why are they judging? And what's the point of their judgment? That's a root cause. That's getting back to, do these people who are judging others have a spiritual calling, or are they just haters? You know, that's a good question that I'd like to ask a group of people. So let's get back on board, kids. Let's figure what all of this is out. So why am I qualified to talk about this? I think this is an important point.
Yeah.
I've owned 2 different occult stores and gave my lifeblood to them, literally, 24/7. And altogether, I think I did it for about 8 years maybe. So I was the head of a community, literally, in Cincinnati, Ohio. Everyone knew me. If you were pagan, you'd heard of me. And I also worked in a nightclub as a tarot card reader, 2 different nightclubs. So I was not only honing my skills and doing that work among the public, I was also a priestess of a large coven of over 25 people. And we did rites and rituals, and I helped them through the path, beginning of Wicca. And we had initiations and everything. It was awesome. But with like any community, like any community, I don't care if you're a bowling league or you're a Wiccan community, the underlying issues of people's personalities and their childhood traumas basically take over the show. And I had not personally been through 12-step recovery at that time. So I was still dealing with my own childhood trauma and helping others with theirs. And really, that's what it all came down to. But my point was to teach them Wicca, because that's the path where you actually find your parents again, your parents, your star parents, your heaven parents. These are such large, beautiful concepts that can change our lives forever. And not only that, change and transform our souls from lead to gold when you realize you have a celestial, heavenly parent and they're talking to you. And yes, I was born psychic. I've always been psychic. But I've seen people who are closed down open up because they've been called. It's a calling. They get called by a god or a goddess or an entire pantheon. And then their life begins to change. And I'm not going to say that they don't go through pain and problems, because usually if you are on the full/hero's journey, you're going to go through Herculean type trauma, dude. It is not an easy path, and you better get your combat boots. So when we talk about Wicca, it's not all love and light, because we do learn about the shadow. In fact, the best book on Wicca for baby witches is Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft, and I will be giving away a link for that book. It's a PDF. It's free now, which is amazing. And Buckland died about 2 years ago, but he is now in what we call Summerland, and I really believe that he had a lot of Merlin in him, so we do love him. And that book will basically hold your hand, but the first place it's going to take you is back to when the Catholic Church began and how they squashed the pagans. Yeah. And then it's going to take you through the burning times when they got rid of anyone that had any talent whatsoever. You didn't even have to. Yeah, you didn't even have to be a witch. If you were a doula, if you were birthing babies, if you were an herbalist, if you were a shaman, you were killed. Or some people took their lives because they knew that they would be tortured.
In the cool of the evening, they used to gather neath the stars in the meadow, circle near an old oak tree at the times appointed by the seasons of the year and the phases of the moon. In the center stood a woman, equal with the others and respected for her worth. One of the many we call the witches, the healers and the teachers of the wisdom of the earth. And the people grew through the knowledge she gave them, herbs to heal their bodies, spells to make their spirits whole. Can't you hear them chanting, healing incantations, calling forth the wise ones, celebrating in dance and song? Isis Diana, Hikadidamita Kali, Inanna, Isis Isisistadadayana, Hekidadamita-kali, Inanna. Isisistadadayana, Hekidadamita-kali, Inanna. And the ghosts came to power through domination, and they bonded in the worship of a dead man on a cross. They sought control of the common people by demanding allegiance to the Church of Rome. And the Pope declared an inquisition. It was war against the women whose power they feared. In this holocaust against the nature people, 9 million European women died. And the tale is told of those who by the hundreds, holding together, chose their death in the sea, while chanting the praises of the mother goddess. Of refusal of betrayal, women were dying to be free. Now the earth is a witch, and the men still burn her, stripping her down with mining and the poisons of their war. So to us the earth is a healer, a teacher, a mother, a weaver of a web of light that keeps us all alive. She gives us the vision to see through the chaos. She gives us the courage, it is our will to survive.
So Wicca has a very bloody past because we had been fighting for our own survival, and I think today that is so important because in my belief we have reincarnated and we're back and we're playing the game again. And we're going to play it the way we know how to play it. And we're not going to allow ourselves to be drawn into the sea again. You know, just, again, genocide, like you said, Cortana.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of a battle here when you first get into Wicca to figure out who's who, what's what, and who did what, and why did it all happen. And so you have to be inquisitive and somewhat intellectual to understand these things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you dive in head first, you know, magic gets really intense. Very
I
intense.
don't believe baby witches should really be doing magic. When I began, I did the celebrational rituals 8 times a year, and that's what prepared me to begin doing magic. And then I did magic on myself. I wanted, as a psychic, as someone who was working in a nightclub, I knew I was the only conduit among my peer group who was talking to God and could talk back to these people. So through my tarot cards, I gave the advice that their spirit guides would be giving them. And it was such an amazing experience for me and my clientele and the whole nightclub. I mean, imagine, you're a teenager, you're at the most awesome place you've ever been, all your friends are there, and you get to be the psychic. In the complete book of witchcraft, it does say about the word pagan, pagani, and heathens, people of the heath. And these were just nicknames or words that they used to describe people that were non-Christian at the time, because the Christians at the time were conquerors, and that's the way we are taught. Now, we also are taught a main law in witchcraft, which many people who say they're witches do not follow today. So this is a huge distinction. If you're meeting a Wiccan, this is something you need to ask them. Our law is harm none. That means not even harming yourself. So therefore, we don't put black magic spells on anyone. We don't put love spells on anyone. We never put spells on other people. If we want to work with the gods, we put the spell on ourselves, and we leave it mostly up to the gods. So we're not these control freaks that have magic. I'd like to say that.
Especially those mass spells. Oh, we're going to put a spell on,
the president.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God. It's like, do not do that. It was disturbing to me. Occult, it was a priestess. It was disturbing to me when that was happening.
I agree. I was really mad that these people were calling themselves witches. It was very difficult for me as well.
All right. So now let's take it back to let's get a very, 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 very basic definition out of the way. And that is the word occult. The actual definition and the real meaning of the word occult is very simple, it's very basic, and it's not what people think it means. And what is it?
If you think it's simple and basic, then you tell me what you think it means.
Well, basically it just means hidden knowledge.
Really? What's it hidden from?
For those that aren't looking, obviously it's a lot more complicated than this, but at a face value definition, it's just
a California definition, face value.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's like a California definition. But yeah, it's something. It's at least hidden enough to where you have to actually look for it.
Well, I want you to know that you are speaking about a medical term in the dictionary for doctors who don't believe we have souls.
Do elaborate.
Well, doctors are taught in school that we do not have souls and that we're pieces of flesh, and that's what they're there to work with. So
but
what is there to explain about that? It's occult. So occult, you can have occult pneumonia. Something in your body can be hidden, and then they'll have to do x-rays. So it's actually a medical term in medical books. It doesn't have anything to do with the name of antiquity, the occult.
Oh, I had no idea that the word
Neither
occult
did Alex
was
Seinfeld when I had to
used
tell
in
him
the
the same thing. Nobody knows. It's
but-
really like tripping me out, dude, that people don't know this stuff.
But wait a minute though. What I mean, the word occult was, in the definition behind it, was established way before we had a medical industry.
Yes, and so was alchemy, but you see that all of it has been stolen and inverted. The science that we used to have was called alchemy, and it was about lead to gold, and even many traditions were trying to make literal lead to gold, which was materialism. But the actual alchemy is beyond is metaphysical, beyond meta is beyond the material realm. And that's what people are having such a hard time grappling with these days as a society in general, that there is something beyond the material realm, but they haven't even dealt with their own subconscious yet, which is your childhood trauma, your fears, things that you've been through in this life. You haven't healed those things, so things beyond that are just spooky.
Okay, so before we get any further, let's take it back a step and let's give a clear definition of the original, as far as, written history is concerned, at least, as far as we can trace it back. What is the original definition of the word occult?
Okay, drum roll, please. Da-da-da-da-da-da. This is straight from Hermes Trismegistus, my personal god and spirit guide. And he says the occult means hidden from the uninitiated.
Yes, that's kind of that's what I was trying to say. I guess I didn't use the right words. But,
and there was a karma in you that wouldn't allow you to use the right words because you haven't done the study and you're not living it. So I am. And I do take donations, and you can follow me at Occult Priestess on Twitter, and my donations, please, occultpriestess.com.
Gigi, you need to go back to school.
Everyone needs to go back to school, baby.
That's what I meant!
That's why I'm here.
That's
this
what
is
I meant.
my community now. I'm giving my blood to you guys. I need to bring us up a notch, please, so that we can start having some fun instead of talking about Satan all the time, please.
Okay, well let me just clear one thing up here. I mean, when I said, hidden knowledge, that's basically what I meant. Hidden from those that are not initiated.
But also in Buddhism, we find the same sentiment. The Dharma, which means teachings, that word Dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, Dharma means teachings. And we have demons that protect the Dharma from profane people. Mm-hmm. So there are little nasty creatures on the other side of the veil, but they're only to keep away those who are nasty themselves. And that's how gargoyles also work. When they were building the first churches, the only people they had to, quote, quote, hire or enslave were the pagans. So they enslaved the pagans, and then they put the gargoyles up and pagan symbolism all over the churches. The older the church, the more pagan it is.
You know what? Wow, I didn't really put that two and two together, actually, that these churches were built on the backs of these pagan slaves, and that, it, like, because the Christian Bible, it doesn't have it doesn't have gargoyles, like the Bible, there'th be the gargoyle that works for God. No, like, these were beings who that these pagan people knew about and knew that they were protectors. Wow.
Well, the thing is because this is all pre-Christian, and no one is going pre-Christian because there's like a line in the sand. Do not go beyond Jesus or you will be hurt or something. There's this fear factor going on here. And you know what? I would like to state for the record that I do love Jesus, and Jesus loves me back, and we're totally cool. And plus, I don't do black magic. I never have. I don't use blood in rituals. I never put whammies on people. Everything that happens around me is through karma and what we call kundalini energy. So it's not like I put my willpower on really anything except for my passions and my mission from God. So I want you guys to know that I am extremely pure, and I don't really expect other people to live up to the level that I am at, but I must express that I am at a pure level.
And how do you level up, honestly?
Because you have a relationship with the gods. You are literally working with them every day. You get called by a specific god or pantheon. I was first called by Aradia, who is an Etruscan goddess. And she was sent to Earth to teach the witches. And it was the most beautiful kind of storyline to have going on in my heart song, to say, oh my gosh, I was incarnated to teach witchcraft to the wonderful witches who are reincarnated now. And so that's where I began. And it was so magical that it's just bloomed and blossomed since. And of course, I'm an alchemist, I'm a hermeticist, and a bunch of other things, because Wicca really is your first stepping stone beyond the veil. Yeah. And I think that so many UFO people, they want thrills, of course. I mean, some of them are escapists and they want the thrilling, ooh, I felt something, or ooh, I saw something, that's spooky stuff. And that's why I call it spooky, because I'm actually making fun of it. Because when you get a demon, that's not spooky. That's hell. That's scary.
Yeah, that's not fun.
So I'm talking about the little, ooh, I got a woo, I saw something. These people are, that's a dabbling situation. But if you are really called to find God, which is really what happened to me from a very young age, because I had sleep paralysis. I had a boogeyman in my bedroom for 19 years, and that's what sent me straight to God. And so when I do get people hating on me, thinking that I'm dark, that I teach about darkness, and usually I assume that they're afraid of their own darkness, so they're projecting it upon me. I wear black, I look like a witch, I must be a negative person. And that kind of mentality is really keeping me down, man.
I mean, it's a form of prejudice. Really.
Yeah, it's witch burning. It's modern witch burning. And it's happening to me. I am poor. I know all of this stuff. I'm extremely educated and experienced, yet I don't get the donations. I don't get the love. But I'm giving it, and I have been giving it here in California for 3 years.
And California definitely needs it, man.
Well, California has gone just about full satanic with the New Age disinformation agenda, which came from Theosophy, which is another form of Luciferianism. And I've noticed out here in California, if you're a Satanist, you're probably not rich. If you're a Luciferian, you are rich. So it's really just the word. Who's using the word Satan and who's using the word Lucifer, but they're both the same being to these people. Although Lucifer originally was Aradia's father, and Diana was her mother, and Lucifer was a god not even on this planet. They had to send their daughter to Earth. And so we have gotten everything stolen and turned upside down, and now we have a bad rap, and that's why we were burned for centuries. I can't even make friends here, really, because everyone I see with the labels that I like, Wiccan, Buddhist, not Buddhist, I haven't really seen many, but the witches out here are mostly Aleister Crowleyites. They follow Aleister Crowley, who was literally a child molester. He admits it in the Book of the Law. So we understand that the beast was called the beast for a reason. In fact, there was a Gurdjieff kicked him out of his house and said, "You're dirty, you're disgusting, get out of here." And I have that in my blog. My blog is The Occultist in the Corner, because believe me, I'm in a corner out here. Baby has been put into the corner.
Oh no.
And so I do my little blog, which is actually pretty popular nowadays. And I want you to read all of the deeper issues here, because I can't get them out on the radio. You understand? It does go back to theosophy and Aleister Crowley and how we've been socially engineered. And so you actually do become, by default, a conspiracy theorist when you become Wiccan, because you understand your history in a way you've never been taught before. Can I also talk about the Saturn people over on YouTube?
Yes, I would love that, actually.
Oh my gosh. So there's a huge culture on YouTube. I watched the beginning of it. I watched it spawn. And it was mostly Christian people with good hearts that were doing spiritual warfare. And, kudos to them. But their problem was they started getting into the occult and looking at the symbology. And they saw Saturn. And Saturn was all of a sudden Satan. And all of a sudden this Jewish black box. Again, that goes back to Abrahamic stuff. Anything satanic or Luciferian is coming from the Christian or Abrahamic world, literally, because we don't believe in Satan and Wicca at all. We believe evil is a force. It's a force, and you either agree with it or you disagree with it every day, every moment. So the angel devil thing is a situation for people who are still maturing, who are still healing their ego, who are still going through their own recovery. But you do get past that where you only get an angel. And that's the stage I've been at for almost 20 years. There's no devil tempting me anymore.
I started noticing that Saturn group of people too, and I'm like, where did you get this?
It's an amalgamation. The whole thing is an amalgamation, which means they take from here, there, and the other place, like an eclectic, and then they make up their own demented thought about it. Like, how can I make this evil? How can I make this dark? And they don't even know they're doing it, so forgive them, for they know not what they do. But they're trying to be educating other people because they're freaked out, and I don't blame them for being freaked out. Our world is a crazy upside-down mess, but that's what we have to work with. And I do believe that the UFO people are going to start finding paganism. And I know that I'm kind of prophesizing here. This is not happening at the moment. But I can see us all doing fairy festivals and having a lot of fun with actual fairy lights. And I do see the fight for the narrative between space people versus the fairies we used to have. You used to get abducted by fairies or even the boogeyman, which would happen to me. But now we have all these new narratives that came out of the FBI and the CIA and Orson Welles and, our recent history. And you will not find a gray alien before Aleister Crowley. He is the one that made the creature named Lam, L-A-M, and that was the first gray. But we understand he worked for the Queen's Secret Service. We also understand there's a shadow government over all of us, not just America. All of them work together in a higher echelon above us, and that's where they're creating the darkness, and they're actually sacrificing to the darkness. And even your little Mason boys here in LA, they are doing blood sacrifice on themselves. I'm not saying they're hurting things other than themselves, and they're also masturbating 24/7 to keep their magic working. They call it chaos magic. And I don't usually speak about things like this because they're distasteful, but I do want to tell the truth.
And not only was Crowley under English Secret Service, he was actually a double agent, working with the Germans as well.
Where we got 007 from in the first place.
Yeah, he was the original gangster when it comes to a double agent. And,
but he did hurt children, and he was trying to raise a moon child, which literally is bringing a demon into a baby. And that's what they do a lot. They get people possessed. So if you're a conspiracy theorist, you're on YouTube, and you watch all the artists and musicians say, I've sold my soul to the devil. And what are they doing? I mean, you can see them eating people in mock rituals, right, with blood. That's Abrahamic. I don't know her name.
Abrahamic, that one that all the stars seem to congregate with.
Well, I'm telling you, it's a big club, and we're not in it. And that club is Lucifer's. And they say he fell, Lucifer fell. He was an angel that fell, and he took a bunch of angels with him. But if we go back to the Greek, pre-Christian, we did fall. We fell from heaven, but it was out of fascination and love for the earth. We fell in love with the earth, and we wanted to mingle with her. And it's a beautiful story with no original sin, no shame, no blame. And so you feel like you're meant to be here, and that God put you here, and you have a purpose. So it's all about, really, the narrative. Don't you agree?
It's like, I don't know what to think about
Luciferianism gave birth to Satanism. And it was really seen in the 60s and the 70s. And the Manson murders was a huge thing for the Luciferians. Like, they really won that part of the game. It was really bad. And plus, Jim Jones with the Kool-Aid, and that was proven to be CIA. But who did the CIA work for except for Lucifer? I mean, we can see I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and so I was brainwashed that Satan rules this world, because that's actually in the Bible, that Lucifer's in charge. But if we see Lucifer as a tempter, just somebody who's there to keep your sword straight, if we could just see that and know that and understand darkness is a force, and you either agree with it or disagree with it because you have free will.
That makes so much sense, because it's like part of the time, like, I'm hearing from conspiracy theorists like, oh God, it's Luciferianism, and they'll interchange that with the whole Satanism thing as well.
Well, Theosophy tried to make an angel of light out of Lucifer, and that is actually a false light agenda of the New World Order that involves the United Nations and the shadow government. So maybe people don't want to know how much oppression we're under, but even if you listen to David Icke, you're going to get the same story I'm telling you.
Oh, totally. And I you're probably only the second person that that has ever mentioned that I know of that has ever mentioned the false light agenda or the false light paradigm.
Yeah, it's the New World Order. It's the same thing. So Lucifer, in this, as he's been built up through their minds as a tulpa or a thought form, they have put a lot of blood and semen into this thought of a dark overlord, and they keep serving this calf, the golden calf, if you will, of materialism. Because honestly, I believe the higher ups know that their souls are damned, and they know they don't have a future beyond this world. So they feel like, if I can stay here, if I can get AI, if I can get into a robot body, if I can transfer my consciousness because it's only a piece of meat, if I can do these things, then I can stay here forever and I can rule like Lucifer would. So I can see their maniacal thoughts, because you got to think like a serial killer to catch a serial killer. And that's all spiritual warfare. And I'm not, I get dirty all the time, in the sense that I will touch dark things to find out what they are. I don't actionably do them, but it's like smelling your food before you eat it. Like, nope, that's Satan. I don't think I'm going to eat that today. Thank you.
For the Fringe FM, this is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with my co-host, Cortana.
Yep, still here, and oh my gods, we've been getting into some deep shift before the break, weren't we?
Indeed we were, and indeed we will continue to do.
I'd like to get into the word occult again, and hidden from the uninitiated, because people don't even know what initiated means. And plus there's fireworks going off. I'm not in Somalia or anything.
I was wondering what that was. Okay.
Okay, so hidden from the uninitiated. People like Masons, Freemasons will tell you that they go to a building and they get initiated by other men, and that's what happens, and that's their initiation. A Wiccan can tell you that they walk into a circle and the priestess initiates them, which we do. But the actual initiations that I'm talking about do not take place on Earth. We consciously, or in dreams, leave the body, go upstairs, as I call it, into the heaven realms, and there are our teachers and guides and loved ones. And those are the ones who do the initiations. I've actually had an initiation where I was sainted. And I know that's crazy, but literally I was sainted upstairs, and I wrote about it. And it's called Sainted Grace in my blog. So I read Dion Fortune when I was younger, and she's an she's an occult priestess too. I would definitely call her that. She's a teacher, Dion Fortune. And she spoke about leaving her body and going to these initiations. And I didn't believe her. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so weird. How could somebody even do that? Because I came from a Jehovah's Witness background, which means absolutely nothing magical. So now that I'm older and I'm actually experiencing it, it's trippy. I can really tell you that. This is not a dreamlike state. I'm literally awake and my consciousness moves and I can see them and I can feel them and I can hear them. And their love is so pervading and powerful that if I was an escapist, all I would do is lay in my bed all day and hang out with the gods. But I'm here for you guys.
I like how you said that. I'm going to just lay in my bed all day and hang out with the gods. Now I know, like, if somebody ever accuses me of, taking a day off, I'm like, well, you know what? I'm in bed, hanging with the gods.
Yeah, we definitely have to
I love
replenish. That's the replenishment that Wicca can give you, because when you start the Wiccan path with a sincere heart, you ask for a god or goddess to come to you, and they do. They literally
really do.
And then you're going to be tested. It's not Satan Lucifer saying, hey, I got a carrot, would you like it? It's not the kind of dangling thing of trying to trick you. But if you do not start to heal your ego, if you don't listen to the guidance, then you're just going to be as bad off as you were when you began. So this really is your own path. It's called solitary practitioner for a reason, because no matter what kind of coven you're in, you're doing the work on your own. If you're lucky enough to have a priestess, then thank your stars and thank your past lives, because that's where we come from.
And not everybody gets that, it's for some people it's really difficult to find a coven that you actually groove with, and then figuring out, like, okay, well, solitary practitioner, it's not solitary practitioner versus the coven.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so during these initiation situations, where are they, geographically, like solar geographically speaking, or maybe even beyond solar, where are they coming from or where are they taking you to have these initiation experiences that aren't being had here?
So you're talking about geography, and I'm talking about metaphysics, which means beyond the physical materialism realm. So you can't ask a materialist question.
So we're talking interdimensional rather than
the fourth dimension, as I've explained on other shows here on Shift Happens. The fourth dimension is where the dead people go, the people that can't make it into heaven, and also demons, people who are Luciferians, who have sold their soul, so to speak. And this language I have to use, but really what they've done is they've become all dark. And when your ego is so sick that it becomes 100% darkness, then you are transformed into a creature. You're no longer a human soul. And opposite of that, if you are on the path of light, which means you have to deal with your shadows, there's no getting out of the pain. You're going to go through this. There's just no escape. So if you start choosing the bright, the light, the love, and grow towards the sun like a flower, then you're going to realize that your soul becomes golden and you become a new creature on that side too. That's what Ascension is all about. It's about enlightenment. And it's not about some spaceship coming and sucking people up, or Jesus even coming, because he said, maybe the way to God is through me, but you got to do your own work. And it seems like the apostles kind of messed up because they started worshiping Jesus instead of becoming him.
Not to put words in your mouth, but from from what you've said, some people might describe that, they might believe they were abducted by, some gray aliens or something.
Abductions happen, dude. So what happened to me, sleep paralysis, is a type of psychic rape. When I went to bed at night, the doors of hell opened wide, and I had to go through hell to get to heaven, because that is where things are situated. If you want to see geography, we've got the fourth dimension just above the third. And Tales from the Dark Side even told us this in the beginning of the show. There's the dark side, and that's the fourth dimension. And then The fifth dimension is what we label heaven, the first heaven. Believe me, there are many, many, many realms, but this is the first heaven where most normal people will go to. But honestly, you got to understand there are souls beyond Earth, and Earth is just a very small game that we're all playing so that we can grow our souls from lead to gold. So I did have to go through hell. I could not get rid of the shadow or the darkness because I'm a bright light, and they really come after us hardcore, as you know, with the witch burnings. Yeah. They're doing it still, but they're doing it in the astral. I have counseled people that have been anally raped. I have by greys. I've counseled people who have had their babies taken from them by greys. So I understand that what we're talking about here is demons in a different form. People have been brainwashed to see them as aliens. It's a story, it's a spin, it's a narrative. The truth is that they are demons, and people are too scared to look at that.
So speaking on a physical, third dimensional sense.
Good luck, Gigi.
Do you? I'm just. Okay, so do you think there are other life forms on other planets that are not? Do you think there's any positive ones out there that are more light beings rather, or do they tend to? What do you think?
All right, so I believe that our game board that our souls are playing right now is known as Earth. Other planets are astrology to us. They're energies to us. They come through to us. And even asteroids hit our planet and give us new plants, flora, and fauna. So if you see it as a game board, stay on your own game board. Right now we're playing Monopoly, unfortunately, and the Earth is the one that's up for grabs. And the rich people have raped the Earth. And what I'm saying is we have gotten away from nature. And paganism teaches nature.
Why am I forgetting this? Taoist philosophy is all about, being one with the earth and taking care of the earth. But now, or at least ever since the Cultural Revolution, and China has been getting more and more polluted. So that's
they have to wear masks.
Example, yeah.
But this is the whole world is this way, and I've talked about this before. It's Alice's upside down hell realm, and the Buddhists do see this place as a hell realm. It's called samsara, the world of suffering. Basically, if you sign up to come here, you're going to suffer. But the thing is, that's the choice of your will, your free will. Are you going to grow towards the light, or are you going to atrophy into materialism and darkness? Are you going to let this world rule you, or are you going to rule yourself?
Healing the ego versus killing the ego. What say you?
Beautiful, wonderful question.
Yeah.
So the ego is the thing that dresses us, that pays our bills, that gets us out of the house, and takes care of us, because we are super consciousness in tiny little animal bodies, just little baby animal bodies with these amazing expanded consciousness that can go anywhere in the universe. So we've been kept in this very small jail, as David Icke would point out, a jail of consciousness. And so the ego in that jail becomes to atrophy and get sick. But you've got to understand, when we're 7 years old, we are developing our defense mechanisms. We're developing the first scent of our ego, and we might even start to lie and experiment around 7 years old. This is some real psychology here that I'm giving you. This isn't just from, little books at the grocery store. So I'm telling you that we develop in these ways, but they're defense mechanisms. These defense mechanisms keep us alive. That's egoic. Now, when the ego gets sick, when it listens to the tempter and says, oh, I think I'm going to throw that ball at that kid's face and I'm going to laugh about it, and then I'm just going to be darker and darker and darker and grow up to be a lawyer, haha, that kind of thing. When we're small, we make these decisions, and we keep making them throughout life. But when you start on a negative track, it's really hard to track back when you're starting on with a sincere heart, which is what I think we're born with. I do believe in reincarnation. If you've been a craphead this lifetime, more than likely you have been in the past. And that's just the way you are, and you're probably not going to make it through this cycle. This whole purpose for incarnating here is to become a bigger, better creature than you were before. And that does get you off the planet, and that does get you to different realms. But what we're talking about here is consciousness, Gigi. We're talking about consciousness that travels in a body of light, or Merkaba, or a car. Honestly, I have a car. A chariot, if you will. And that's seen in the tarot cards. This is how we move. But if you're not meditating, and if you're not cleaning up your diet and your insides and your thought patterns, then you're never going to get a car.
Here comes Big Racer. Trixie.
You know, within this still not New Age community, but UFO community, etc. You know, the people that we kind of run with, you know, being like, oh, I need to kill my ego, blah, blah, blah. But if you killed your ego, you're like killing yourself. And it's like, I need to kill off my ego and become one with the greater Godhead or whatever without my ego.
Escapism,
and that's,
we don't become one, ever. We can commune with God, but we don't just melt into this beautiful pool of light. And that is not creative at all. I would like to say that sounds like the end of a book, not the beginning of eternity. Yeah, you become a unique creature. God loves our creativity. That's why, part of the reason we're here is to express our authentic self. But almost no one's being their authentic self. And in the crowds that we run with, it's really just they read a book and they're just regurgitating what they read. They don't really mean it.
Like, where did the Christians come up with their stories? Like,
well, some say that Jesus is Serapis Bey, like a conglomeration of. That's when I did my research about 15 years ago. That's what I came up with. But I've met Jesus, so I'm cool with Jesus.
Yeah. No, Jesus is my brother, and apparently Christians get upset with me when I say that he's my brother.
Well, Jesus told me that we're cousins and not to worship him.
No, I beat up Jesus.
I love him.
Sorry. Jesus and I get in arguments every once in a while.
That's the kind of guy Jesus is. If people would get to know him, he's really funny. He's very loving. But I can't go cry on the shoulder. He says, go to Zeus. That's not right.
No.
Oh,
Jesus is cool.
Oh my God, literally, yeah. He'd totally be a hippie,
But I've met the man, Jesus Christ Superstar, the actual man, the actor, Ted Neely. I've met him twice in this lifetime. I just met him, I think it was last summer. And I told him I was a Buddhist. I was so excited. I was like, I did better than you. I'm a Buddhist. I graduated higher than you did.
What did he have to say about that? What did he have to say? What did Jesus have to say about that?
He was delighted, and he kind of said, would you like to talk after? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Thank you. Jesus, I think, hit on me, and that's awesome.
Yeah, of course, Well,
Well, yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's the biggest compliment I've ever had.
Yeah, there's no higher compliment than that, I would think.
No. But Ted Neely actually does live the lifestyle of Jesus because he's always touring and doing Jesus, and he has his whole life. So I think he's the closest thing we have. And I'm not trying to say he's a savior because even Jesus said, you're your own savior. And I wrote a poem, if you want a savior, if you want a messiah, look inside you. And that's Hermetics. And that's also Wicca. You're always getting pushed back inside. And I think that's what the escapists are so afraid of, is going within. They'd rather read sci-fi and get lost in some kind of minutia than actually look at, hey, man, my mom hit me when I was 5 years old. Oh, my God. Instead of looking at the deep spookies they've got within, they're creating them without.
Do you not find it where that people are not looking within themselves because they are afraid of doubt, right? Of themselves, so that they're looking for answers from other people's, because they really don't want to look within themselves. They don't, because what they see is ugly.
It's a type of codependency. It's called, John Bradshaw called it other-aided. You have to be aided by others. And that's okay if you want to go to a 12-step meeting, if you want to go to a group of people that are there for healing, to get a kickstart, to get a little bit of a shot of the good stuff, so to speak, some love. But then you've got to go home and be by yourself. You've got to get in your bedroom and start journaling, start writing. And don't even, your family could be very toxic. They could be toxic right now, today, yelling at you over the phone.
Yes. I don't mean to cut you off. I have a few friends that go to any convention that they can get their hands on. Self-help, this, and they're still messed up. Because,
right, and
like I
sometimes
said,
even worse, right? Because they're
Yeah.
taking it as a hobby.
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
They're not taking it seriously. It's
Yeah,
a hobby. It's a way to meet people. It's a way to have sex sometimes, I've heard.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I heard.
As well, because it's like, okay, so you see one of these speakers, but are you doing the work? Or like with the
Right.
psychedelic or shamanic trip as well?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, but
you
are the
doing the
speakers
work?
doing
You know
the
what I
work?
mean? And are they doing? Yeah, like what?
Usually not. Usually they've
Yeah.
been falsely
Oh,
elevated.
yeah, here we go, too. Okay, sorry. I have to say this, too. I swear, 80% of these life coaches, self-helpers, or whatever like that, are all fake. Get
Yeah,
real.
it's all about branding.
I get upset about that when I see these people's taking people's monies. Like, okay, here we go with religion. Here we go.
Well, it's beyond religion now. It's the good intentions people, saying,
I know, man. They're stealing people's souls, man.
Yes.
They
You
don't know what they're doing. I still forgive them because I really don't think they know. And I'd like to call a Satanist a Satanist or a Luciferian a Luciferian because our labels are making the narrative. And because
God.
I'm seen as a dark creature and I've always been bright. I've always been seen that way too since 5 years old. The neighborhood kids tied me to a tree and were going to burn me because I was a witch. It's past life. I can't get over it. But if people started actually listening to me and doing the work, they would love me. Yeah, I'm here trying to be, though, a guiding light, a pole star. I'm trying to say, children, come this way. I won't hurt you, I swear.
People, they don't want to look at themselves, within themselves.
That's the root cause, is that they're avoiding their own self. And you should be your own best friend. I'm my own best friend, and I love myself. I kiss myself. Mwah! I love myself. And I found that a lot of people hate themselves, and I'm freaked out about that, too.
Yep. Me and Cortana and you as well, Corinne, a lot of people in this community, we obviously go to a lot of these conferences and gatherings and we watch, all kinds of lectures and whether it's Conscious Life Expo or whether it's one of the 5D events or anything, if they gave you an hour on stage, you would definitely, there's got to be a line in the sand there somewhere. Like what, like just because someone's on stage giving a lecture at an event doesn't necessarily mean that they're just full of shit and trying to push books. There's definitely some people out there trying to do the right thing. So where's the line there, do you think?
Yeah, do you have a radar?
Let me tell you about the process of getting on that stage, Gigi, because I've been at the beginning stages of that process with Coast to Coast AM, with N5D, and other events. I've been at the starting line, so to speak, and met the people who were in charge and spoke with them deeply because that's what I do. It isn't just business to me. This is my soul and my soul light and what I want to put it into. So for me, this is very important. I'm not trying just to be seen or known. I want to be seen or known so the message could be heard. But I would have had to have compromised myself at level 1 to get on that stage. I would have had to be a fake person, kiss butt, and go along with a narrative that I disagree with. And I would have to say yes to other people's narratives that I also 100% disagree with. And I know that a lot of the people that are on these stages are failed actors. They used to be actors, and they're just acting their way through another role. So especially out here in California, back home at the psychic fairs that we had there, things were more genuine, but it's still people getting freaked out about UFOs or ghosts or the darker side of the occult. And so again, not putting my soul light into that either. So I'm still looking for a container, but sometimes you don't get a container. You have to create your own, and that would only come through donations or somebody who really believed in me that would put their money behind me, basically. And then I would be a force of nature. Yep. It is my dream to have a retreat center where we have gatherings and we're not only learning about magic, but we're actually learning about ourselves and nature. And so I do have big dreams and big goals, but I'm just waiting for others to help.
I feel like there could be times where, one of these bigger events where, there's other people pushing other agendas, and there's obviously a lot of... But you can't
get into the event unless you are in with the agendas, you see. Well, because I'm honest. And so they find out in the first 5 minutes I'm not on board.
Yeah, but see, what you could do is you could sort of play along until you get on stage, and then
that's your job.
But once you get on stage, just bust it out and then have a drop the mic moment, and bam, you just...
That's manipulation, my love. I can't manipulate people. I'm Buddhist. I'm literally not allowed.
Just an idea.
I can't really be a very good business person in this world the way things are set up. Buddhists have a rule. Don't ever take that which is not freely given. Mm-hmm. So that means I never get the last piece of pizza.
Does it ever get overwhelming?
Every day, darling. Every day. I don't live a comfortable life, Cortana. Mm-hmm. I do have chronic back pain. And
same.
Yeah, and this is like my job from God, but it doesn't mean I get paid for it. That's why I'm trying to ask people for donations, because I see people a lot lower on the totem pole have their whole lives paid for by generous people. And I'm like, wow, how can I get signed up for that? Because then I can be authentic. I don't have to, play the game. You make your own game. And this would be a divine game. And I think everyone would want to get in on that.
I'm still trying to figure out how to recover from being overwhelmed. So if you have any tips.
Yeah, well, that really 12-step does outline anything we need to do to heal ourselves, because when you go through the steps magically, it's even more powerful because, Odin could be holding your hand through this. So, the gods are powerful if you can just open your mind a bit and open your heart a bit. And that's the thing. People are very intellectual. And reaching out to something beyond themselves upstairs is not very intellectual. They call it woo-woo. And I say woo-woo is a train, and it's coming for you. Woo-woo. It's the truth train, baby. So it's really about self-compassion is what we grow in, self-love and self-compassion. And we go, oh, my God, I did something stupid. And then we deal with it. And that's what people mostly are not dealing with things, responsibilities. Yes. They see their only responsibility is to make money and to protect their family. And that is a very narrow-minded situation.
Yeah, and about like taking care of, doing your shadow work, as they say, and, certain programs. If someone joins them, they are forced to, versus someone who just does their shadow work?
Well, it's all different, because I'm an Aquarius. I needed to see other people doing it. I needed a group at first. But then you go home and you do your homework and you take your own inventory and you do your own 12 steps. And so I even basically wrote a book about the 12 steps in a spiritual nature where you call upon the goddess Isis, and it's really amazing. But there's nowhere to publish things like this. They are not wanted, nor they are needed, but they are not wanted. Thank you. And donations at occultpriestess.com. But also, I've been dealing with, this is my mission recently, is dealing with Russell Brand. I've been going to see him talk about the 12 steps. And he admits, and every time I've seen him, which is quite a few times since April, he admits he is not healed. So there he is, writing books, informing people. He's actually a mentor himself to other men, yet he admits he's not healed. So you can't cure cancer with cancer. And there we are, another falsely elevated. Now, don't get me wrong, man. Get him to the Greek. He's a great actor. He's a good comedian. But as a spiritual person, he's sorely lacking.
Yeah, and I guess that's the difference, of course, is he actually admits it. Whereas
he does in a private audience. Actually, I had to pay money to go see him to hear his truth, which is why I was guided to go, because this wasn't going to be him, a big comedian on stage trying to impress 1,000 people. There were less than 80 people in the audience every time I went. So it was very, very intimate. He really got very intimate with everyone. In fact, you know how he is. But he gave away his shit, is what I say. He gave up the ghost, and he told me everything, and I took notes. So I do understand that this man is definitely not healed, and he's starting retreats in Topanga Canyon. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's very hard to get close to him and say, hey man, I can help you out with that. And that's also a goal, is because I think he's taken over really our community in the sense that he's the only celebrity talking about what we're doing. In the more yoga sense, in the more heal your ego sense, and get over your alcoholism sense, your addictions. He's not talking about UFOs. I guess we leave that to people that go on Joe Rogan.
Oh, Joe Rogan.
Man,
He's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I've got to say, Russell Brand's really come a long way.
Oh, Lord.
But,
well, I've been guided towards Russell Brand for over 8 years. I met his soul upstairs. Soul is freaking awesome. I'm totally a fan of his soul. But his ego is a lot worse off than I ever imagined. And so it's kind of like dealing with a werewolf a little bit.
So you'd say that it was a really, really ill ego, really sick one.
Yeah, but he's also funny, and I guess that gives me a lot of compassion for him because I see where he could flip. Yes. And I have been guided toward him a lot for 8 years. And so I see in my future that he's either going to become a real prophet or he's going to become a maniacal Luciferianism into communism, into the New World Order.
It's like flip a coin,
Yeah, he is a Gemini.
Oh, obviously. Oh my God, seriously?
Yeah.
Of course. So those Geminis. Pesky, pesky Geminis.
So that's my effort to try to hack into his matrix, basically.
There you go. And so, a real quick reminder for the folks. So we've put a couple of links in the chat to your WordPress, which is where your articles are over there, occultpriestess.wordpress.com. And there's an article specifically we linked there. But you also have another website too, right?
Yeah, occultpriestess.com, and that's where you can come to me. We can chat. I do prayers for people. I believe the prayers are like $40, and they're 3 nights of prayers, and I've always gotten the best feedback from that. It's actually a lot more work than $40, but that is like my charity.
Yeah, and and I was there one time. I got to watch you live work with a couple of different patients. And
clients, darling.
I should say clients, patients, whatever you want to call it. But they were definitely. I mean, I could just. Yeah, I felt the power of it just sitting next to you while you were doing it.
Thank you. My clients tend to love me, and that's why I still do it. I'd rather make money through media, but I understand that people need a personal soul nurse, and if I can do it, I definitely want to.
So this is what, like, literally what that saying of, like, doing the Lord's work,
Yes, ma'am. All of the Lord's.
Yeah.
Many gods. And that's, I'm universal. If you're into Jesus, then I'll bring him in. I love Mary. Mary shows up a lot, even for non-Catholics. She just gets excited to show up. But she is a blesser. She gives a lot of blessings, which is very powerful.
Blessings for everyone.
Yeah, because I've always worked with people of different faiths, so I had to be cool with everyone's faith.
So, I mean, in a summary, what are your sessions like when you are being this spiritual nurse?
Oh, it's amazing. So we go straight past the ego. The ego gets kicked out of the room immediately. And that right there is a watershed moment for most clients. They've never been in a space where they haven't had the nag in their head. And that's the first thing I get rid of. And then we go into the subconscious, which is where it's pretty dodgy. But if they're lucky, which most of them are, because they've called me, not to be stuck up, but that's the way things work. So we go straight up into the soul realm, and we deal with what their soul is going through. And that is a root cause, because that's where everything originates from. Things do not originate from Earth. They come downward. So I go upward, and I grab a hold of them, and I can see them. I can see them in the soul realm, so I see the state that they are in, and then I help them from there. And it's loving. It's not scary when you do it with me.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, are there any, like, props? I say props, but, like, crystals or tarot cards? Like, what is it that you do to grab this soul?
Well, I'll let you know that I don't have to use tools, but if the client chooses, I will use tools.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But I guess now's the time that, oh man, we only have like 2 minutes left. But where can people find you? Your social media and stuff.
So on Twitter, please follow me on Twitter. I don't have enough love over there. So it's at Occult Priestess on Twitter. And I'm always putting something up controversial. So check it out.
Yeah. It's a very exciting Twitter, I must say.
Thank you, Cortana. And I enjoy yours as well. And so I'm also occultpriestess.com. That's been my domain for over 20 years, and I pay for it out of my own pocket. And I did my own HTML I am the jack of all trades and master of some.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra work. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this has been Shit Happens Here for the Fringe FM. The show is hosted and produced by yours truly and Empress Cortana.
And it's whispered that soon, if we all call the tune, then the piper will lead us to reason, and a new day will dawn for those who stand long